What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Culture 316 podcast. I am one of your hosts and producers, Jordan Nahisi.
Join with your co-host, Mo. What is up, people?
And for starters, we're going to go through our normal protocol. Thank you so much to anyone who has been watching us or supporting us. If you're watching on Apple, if you're listening on Apple, Apple or Spotify podcasts, be sure to subscribe to the show, give the show 5 stars, because it is how the show gets up in ratings and viewership and all that beautiful stuff. And if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We've been getting a lot of feedback regarding these little hockey jerseys right here. These are our Culture 316 hockey jerseys. I got one. Mo got one. Winnie's, there's one for her on the way. I'm trying to see if Angie and Nora want one because the team gets theirs first. But also let us know if you like these jerseys, these Culture jerseys right here. Let us know. Maybe we can start selling them, and we can go from there. But we've been getting a lot of positive feedback on Mo's Twitter. I don't really be using Twitter like that, so y'all probably going to see it on Instagram somehow, some way. But we can go from there. But we got a pretty loaded show, so we're not even going to waste a lot of time, and we're going to get right into it. So the first thing is first, it seems that we have a new faction on our hands. The authors of Pain, along with Paul Ellering, have returned to WWE TV. And they are joining up with Karrion Kross and Scarlett. They made their official union official when they had attacked Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, which then led to a very, very interesting backstage segment between Bobby Lashley, the Street Profits, and B-Fab, which is on their digital platforms. But I kind of wanted to know your opinion on this newly formed faction. How do you feel about it? Tell me, lay it on me, sis. Tell me how you feel about this new faction.
Okay, so one thing I just wanted to note is that I noticed that, like, since Triple H has been in more control, there's been like a heavy focus on factions. And I actually love it because if you know how to book a faction correctly, there's multiple storylines you could have, not just against other factions, but tell stories within the faction itself. In case one of them may butt heads, kind of similar to like what we saw with like the Bloodline. So I'm a little bit excited because there's so much you could do and play around with when you build a faction. So that was my first thought when I saw that they bought out AOP. Secondly, how I feel about AOP. I actually really like their work in NXT.
Yes.
I love their work. They were booked way better, obviously, NXT than their short time. I think they were on Raw, if I'm not mistaken. And they just had really, really, really shitty booking. I forgot who they were aligned with or who they were against. They wouldn't have been the New Day or something, but they just had them doing toiletry jokes. They ruined them on the way out. And then they went away, and I think it was good that they went away for this long because how do you recover from that? They have a great look, and they really could survive on their own with the manager because it definitely worked over at NXT. But they look very good visually next to Karrion Kross and Scarlett, and I was a little bit surprised because I'm not a huge Karrion Kross fan. I love me some Scarlett Bordeaux. I've been saying on Twitter that I wish that she could just go into the women's division, and just give us a diva-ist feel because she could wrestle and she could talk. However, I kind of like the idea that they got a big man faction, and that Karrion Kross may have something else to bounce off of because he's not very good on his own. But that's the beautiful thing about factions. When you kind of come together, everyone could bounce off of each other's light. The only thing I was a little bit confused about is that they have a manager and Scarlett's a manager. So does that mean we have 2 managers? How does that work? And is that something new that WWE has done? That was my next question. Go ahead.
I was going to say, okay, that's interesting because I didn't even think about that. But I think they could deal with 2 managers because you have one specifically for the tag team and then you have one specifically for Karrion Kross. I think that's the biggest takeaway is that it feels like 2 entities coming together as opposed to a person and a tag team coming together. Because with the authors of Pain, you have Paul Ellering. With Karrion Kross, you have Scarlett. And if the B-Fab tease with Street Profits and Bobby Lashley was an indicator of anything, maybe BFAB gets into wrestling, and then that leads to BFAB versus Scarlett. In which case, Paul Ellering could be her manager. You know what I mean? Or maybe she doesn't even need a manager. But
It's
because
a
there's
lot you
so
could
many
do.
pieces, there's so much flexibility that you can have with all these things coming together. As far as like the whole idea of like them coming together, I actually 100% agree with you. Like the factions and the use of factions are just great. Like I feel like the more factions you have, the better. I feel like it gives more people TV time. I feel like it creates new storylines, whether it's faction versus faction, factions having tensions within the faction. And on top of that, I feel like the diversity of factions in WWE is the best it's ever been, because you have obviously the bloodline is still technically alive, but then you also have the Judgment Day. Now you have Karrion Kross and AOP along with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. So you have a good mix. And we're not even talking about what's going down in NXT. But I just think that there's such a good mix of factions. And I feel like this just kind of adds to whatever is going on. We're not even talking about like LWO and the Legato, you know, because now that's two different things. So there's a bunch of different factions. And I feel like it's just a really good way of keeping people on screen. Like, I think that Karrion Kross has world champion potential. I feel like he can be a world champion. He has a great look. I feel like he has great presentation, and I feel like with the faction, I feel like he has the capability of putting forth a package visually that's very main event worthy. Now, I haven't really fancied myself on being a Karrion Kross wrestling fan. So I guess the in-ring work is just going to have to progress on its own. But, you know, we'll see what happens. But I actually really, really like this idea. And I like the fact that Hunter is including more factions into the programming. But I'm not going to get super, super deep into it. But yeah, let us know how you feel about, let me ask the question. So apparently WWE filed a trademark called Final Testament, and it seems like that is going to be the name for this new faction. So Authors of Pain, Karrion Kross, Scarlett, Ellering, the Final Testament. Is it a yay? Is it a nay?
That's a dope ass name. What? I'm with it. Now I'm extra hyped for this.
I like the name. I really, really like the name. And I think it fits because it's like Authors of Pain, Karrion Kross, and the TikTok. I feel like it's very like biblical. And it's like very
Yeah.
biblically dark. So I think it's tough. I like it a lot.
That was a good call. That
So
Triple
I
H
was a
had to have been all over that.
Yeah, Hunter was definitely on that. Hunter's the GOAT. But let us know how you feel about, maybe it is called, maybe it is not, the Final Testament as a faction. Put your comments below. Keep us in tune as far as how you feel about that. But we're going to be moving on to the next topic. So we know that it is TV rights season, and we've been talking about TV rights with AEW as well as with WWE. It has been rumored, putting that out there because I do not want us to get a lawsuit. It has been rumored that one of the suitors who is in the lead for acquiring media rights for WWE's flagship show is Amazon Prime. Now, for those of you who are not aware, Amazon Prime Video is the official streaming service of Amazon, which is most known for its Amazon Prime program, where the company provides free 2-day shipping on a whole different plethora of options as far as clothing, whether it's books, video games, technology. And Amazon is also considered one of the most valuable brands in the world. And over the past couple of years, they've been kind of dibbing and dabbing in media. They purchased MGM, which is a well-known movie studio. They've been bulking up on a lot of their entertainment offerings, as well as some of their sports offerings. They actually also offer Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime, which is hosted by Taylor Rooks. So they've been beefing up their entertainment offerings as well as their sports offerings. I wanted to know how you would feel about WWE Monday Night Raw being exclusively available on Prime Video.
I thought it was really weird at first, but then hearing you break it down and already acknowledge that other big sports have entertained this idea and it sounds like it's working. I don't think it's completely insane. It's just different.
Mm-hmm.
and they're definitely going to be like the first of any wrestling company to try it out. You know, they're putting themselves out there to be the guinea pigs, and you have to be very confident to make a move
Mm-hmm.
like that. But Amazon's very popular. I personally don't use it for media. I do have Amazon Prime. I use it for the likes of what you just mentioned. But I can see people giving it pushback in the beginning just because it's a weird transfer.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like they'll get over it very fast because they'll realize that, oh, I already use Amazon. So it's not really the worst thing just to get Prime if I'm already using Amazon, and you get it for free essentially. I don't know what the cost is if you didn't have Amazon Prime and you're paying for it separately, but I mean, I think it's interesting. I think it's innovative. It might actually influence other companies to try it out if it actually works. So it's pretty brave, pretty bold. That's a pretty direct business move, but I don't see the harm in it. What do you think?
So here's my take on it. And I was doing a little bit, I was literally, as you were saying things, I was like, how much is Amazon Prime a month? Because I'd be paying for it. And I don't know how much I'd be paying for it. But Amazon Prime as a service is actually worth $14.99 a month. It's worth $139 annually. And with that, you get the video streaming service. You also get the the video streaming service, but you also get the 2-day free shipping, which is one of the biggest offerings that Amazon has to offer, and has kind of put them in a position to differentiate themselves from their competitors. I was doing a little bit more research, and I realized that the idea of a streamer in a sports league or sports entertainment company collaborating with a streamer is actually not abnormal or out of the ordinary. It's actually been kind of trending in a certain direction over the past couple of years. I was just reading that MLS, Major League Soccer, has a 10-year, $2.5 billion deal with Apple. Obviously, we saw the NFL and Amazon have their little program. Also, Amazon is eyeing a package for the NBA to either do Tuesday nights or Thursday nights. Also, the MLB has a deal with Apple. So it seems as if this is kind of the future of sports. This idea of sports collaborating with streaming companies as well as uh, traditional cable companies or traditional networks. And so I can see WWE trending in a direction in which they possibly sign to Amazon, right? Like, and who's to say that they don't mix it up, right? Like we see that the NFL has a deal with CBS, has a deal with Fox, and also has stuff on Amazon. What if WWE were to do something similar? Maybe you have Monday Night Raw on Prime, and then you have like Friday Night SmackDown on a Fox or a Sci-Fi. All I'm saying is that signing to a streamer is not the end all be all, but you're going into 2024. Streaming is a very, very big player in how people consume media. It has to be heavily considered, especially with all of these sports companies kind of leaning in that direction. And we know that over the past 18 months, with the purchase of WWE, the demotion of Vince McMahon, Nick Khan and Hunter kind of stepping up into their positions of power, they've all collectively been very, very progressive. So I think that this is something that they're probably going to deeply consider. Um, but I was gonna say, if Amazon goes after WWE, do you think that should come with like some original programming, like the way that NBC Universal and Peacock do with WWE, or do you think it should just be like Monday Night Raw and nothing else?
I think that if you really want people to invest, because like you have to understand, Monday Night Raw just started getting good, and for
Mm.
a while it was ass. So if I was with WWE, I would stack more into that. I think just selling it as just Monday Night Raw is a little bit of a problem just because some people have a hard time even affording Peacock. And I think that's 9.99 or 10.99, something like that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I stream things, guys. But um, but now you're asking people to make two purchases. So I
Mm.
feel like maybe it might be smarter if you try to either put exclusives on there and make it a whole package to make it more
Mm-hmm.
enticing, or you just shift everything to a one-stop thing because now some people have to log on to Amazon for Monday Night Raw, and some people are gonna have to, log on to like Peacock and stuff like that. But then the other part of my brain makes me think of like how for me, like I don't have a chance to like watch Monday Night Raw off TV typically because I'm always busy. When I do, I always like go on the app, the USA app, to which you have to have a network to log into. So then part of me is thinking, well, this might actually get them to get more of an audience because I also keep in mind that not everyone has cable at home.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are moving away from that, and they just watch whatever they could stream off from an app. So it may just survive on its own if you're a really big WWE fan,
Yeah.
but I think it will look way better just presenting as a first time ever thing if you just slap together some stuff that maybe we're getting off the WWE network that we liked and just package it that way. But what do you think is the best method?
And I think that I think this should be funny. So I feel like WWE should date media outlets, and I'll explain what that means.
Yeah,
Right?
because you lost
I,
me.
yeah, I feel like we're in the age of media and content where there are a lot of companies that are courting content creation companies. That could be a music record label, that could be a sports company, any entity that generates content. A lot of these companies are courting, right?
Yeah.
We see it obviously with the deals that I just mentioned with MLS and Apple, with Amazon and the NBA, Amazon and the NFL, but we also see it we also see it when it comes to like music, right? Apple has their own music awards. A lot of people don't know that they have their own music awards. They do live albums for artists who are well known in music. They have live albums. They do playlists curated by certain artists and they pay those artists. They have DJ sets where like Apple's able to, break break apart the DJ set and have royalties being paid out to whomever needs the royalties paid out to. And it's a way of them kind of saying, hey, like we see what you're doing. We'll let you do this. We'll let you do this. We'll give you money for this. We'll give you money for this. And it's almost in a way where these big tech companies and these big media companies are kind of courting content creation companies in the sense that they want to be able to say that we can fund you, we can pay you, we can compensate you, and we can give you a little bit of the benefits, but we're not going to give you too much until you commit to us. Right. And I feel like WWE should take advantage of that mindset from different big tech companies and different media companies. Right. You give this person this program, you give this person this program. You know what I mean? And you just say, may the best man win. You don't want to commit all of your product to one company because what if something happens with that company? Right. Then you're in the stinker. But if you let these companies court you, you're able to get the best of from different people. Maybe Amazon is the best option, like you said. Like in something that I just thought about, something that would be genius, because Amazon is such a big hub for shopping. You have Monday Night Raw on Amazon, and in the middle of the show, when merch is being debuted, the link automatically appears on screen. Now you can just purchase it right within the app. You can add to cart, have it shipped to you right within the app, right as you're watching the show.
Are you thinking about the QR code thing with your phone?
It could be the key. No, it's not the QR code thing. That you have to scan the TV. But imagine like you're watching Monday Night Raw and like Roman Reigns comes out and he's doing his little pose. And as he's doing his little pose, there's a little pop-up that comes that shows the shirt that he's wearing. You can add to cart. You can shop with one buy. And you can have it sent to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, that'd be lit.
So, but that's something that's exclusive to Amazon. So this is the reason why I think that WWE should allow these companies to court them. That way that they can experience the best of certain benefits from certain companies without fully committing all of their product to one company, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'm with it.
See,
I'm
yeah,
definitely with
I
this.
got my
They need
friend
to
too.
hire you or something. Like,
I be smart. I be having ideas or whatever. But we're not going to get super deep into that. But how do you feel about Amazon Prime signing WWE's Monday Night Raw to a media rights deal? Let us know in the comments below. But we're moving on because I know this is about to give me a headache. So, unless you were living under a rock, you've already seen what's been happening between Tony Khan and Jinder Mahal. Essentially, on Monday night, I think it was Monday night. Yeah, Monday or Tuesday night. No, it was Tuesday night. Um, it started with a tweet. Um, I forgot the name. Oh, Diraj. I forgot how not to say his name. He tweeted
Rajiri.
something. Yes, he tweeted something in regards to Seth Rollins and Jinder Mahal, because Jinder Mahal will be challenging Seth Rollins for his World Heavyweight Championship next week on Monday Night Raw. He commented saying that these guys do have a history. Seth Rollins defeated Jinder Mahal in the tournament finals to become the first NXT champion. And then the USA Network replied, "What was the cage match rating?" Um, and obviously, like, there was really nothing else that came from that except Tony Khan responding. Tony Khan responded saying, "A moral victory for USA is one win more than their world title challenger Jinder Mahal has in the past 364 days because it's been literally a full year since he won a match. You really put AEW in our place getting Jinder Mahal in a big match on your TV show. Do it more often." Beforehand, he actually tweeted this: "A double standard." He mentioned Hook, 28-1 career record on winning streak calls out the champ. A logical challenge sparks online outrage. Jinder has literally lost every single match he's in for the past year. Immediately gets title shot. Where is the rage? AEW Dynamite tomorrow on TBS. And that was kind of what happened. I think Jinder actually responded saying, "Who the fuck is Hook?" And then responded saying that Monday Night Raw will be happening next Monday, obviously. I have my own opinions on this, but I already know I'm going to get an earful. So Mo, I need your take on this incident.
I didn't even go past the first couple tweets when this all went down just because I had to stop and ask, why is a billionaire that has this big ass company to run that is losing in the war with the rival company not only tuning in but commenting on a Monday night? What's going on over there? Like, you have so many problems to fix over there, Tony. Why do you care and why are you publicly commenting on it? If you want to come and have a discussion in private with your own people, because I know that you're a mark at the end of the day and you love the E secretly, that's cool. But to like go out loud on social media and complain about the way another company's booking that's winning, it to me, it gives sore loser. It gives sore loser, and it always it lacks professionalism because I always got to ask, would Triple H do this? Would you dare see Triple H commenting on anything that AEW is doing over there? No, because he's worried about the E. He minds his own business. You know, he'll take the publicity, of course, because good or bad publicity is still publicity, is still numbers, still ratings. But to start a whole war on social media because you're obviously bothered, you're triggered. I don't even like Jinder Mahal. Okay, like I think he's probably like top 10 worst champions I've ever seen in my entire life. He's not even a champion right now. And while Tony might be correct, okay, that yeah, he hasn't wrestled on TV and that he shouldn't have challenged. I mean, this is kind of typical WWE logic. They just do this stuff in general. And the culture what goes on in the E is not the same culture what goes on with AEW. There's plenty of things on AEW that I watch with WWE lenses and I'm just like, why are they doing that? That doesn't really make any sense. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So while his logic might make sense that yes, the person that challenged on my side, they have a winning record, and that's their system over there. They have a win-loss record that they stress. so that when it comes time to challenge, it makes more sense. But you can't like apply your system over here on the E, because they kind of just more or less do what they want and stick whoever's face just is the flavor of the month there. And it just happened to be Jinder Mahal. They like him for whatever reason. That's just what it is. To me, regardless of whatever way you paint it, he's wrong for starting this argument. He's wrong. But of course, the fans are going to like feed into it because there's a war obviously going on between AEW and WWE. If I was losing personally, I wouldn't be commenting on what the winning team is doing, because irregardless of what is logical or not, they're beating me. So if anything, instead of commenting on like the little tiny things that no one's really thinking about, like, why don't you take notes, Tony, on what they're doing that's making them successful while you're still failing to sell out stadiums and they're downsizing? That's how I feel. I think honestly he looks like a loser. And I feel like someone needs to take away his phone. I think he needs to have like a PR team speak for him, because he always goes out sad. Like he has like he could just be a silent person and just like again have all these opinions alone by himself or with his friends. But it's so embarrassing because you don't even feel like a boss. You just feel like another mark account on Twitter writing stuff like that. Would Vince do that? No. Would Triple H do that? No. Would Bruce Pritchard even do that? No. Would John Laurinaitis do that? No. Nobody would do this but him. But I digress. I want to hear what you have to say. I feel like you're going to unleash on this one. You may not even agree with me, but I want to hear you, Jordan.
So I agree. I'm going to start off with this. There was one point in time where, this is 1998. There was an incident. If you are an Attitude Wars fan or like you were kind of around during that time, there was a point in time where there was a WCW show in Norfolk, Virginia. DX pulled up with a tank and they were driving it down the ramp and trying to get in. And then Hunter asked Vince on the back end, well, if that happened to us, if it was the other way around and the NWO tried to come into our show, what would you do? And Vince said, well, I would let them on my show, because that means that NWO's viewers on WCW, along with our viewers, are going to all watch our show. And then I'm going to have those eyes on our product. Then we fast forward years later, we've seen AEW references on WWE TV between Edge and The Miz. We've seen them kind of like, market it away with NXT, where there was a Wednesday night war. Anytime WWE has taken a jab at AEW, it has been in a way in which it benefits the WWE product, where it's going to give the WWE product higher ratings or more traffic or more notoriety, because ultimately that's what it's all about. It's all about the product. It's all about what you're putting on television. And I think that that's the difference between this or those incidents and what Tony Khan is doing, because I feel like, yes, Hunter is going to take his jabs. Vince historically has taken his jabs. We can't deny it. It's on Peacock. You've seen it. And it's not just the AEW thing. They've taken shots at TNA. They've taken shots at ECW, WCW, all that, right? But the thing that gets me so weirded out about this is, like you said, why are you clocking this man on Twitter? You're tweeting at an account that wasn't even bringing up your name. That's going out sad, bro. You had a whole
reading replies,
asking where's the outrage. Sir, you have a show tomorrow. Go to sleep. Get some rest. Book your show. What are you doing? That's where I have the problem. I don't have a problem you taking I don't even have a problem with you taking your shots. Take them on Wednesday night so that the tweets can be retweeting, so that AEW becomes a trending topic worldwide. Granted, it's probably going to happen anyway, but still, like, invest whatever frustration you have into the product. Don't tweet and then take because funny part is, right, AEW Dynamite had its homecoming edition, right? And a lot of people didn't even know that it was the homecoming edition because everybody was talking about these tweets. And it's like you just got in the way of your own bag. You just interrupted your own momentum because you didn't know how to mind your business. Right?
That
If
part.
you pride yourself on being the alternative, like all this aside, right? AEW has been marketed as the alternative wrestling company. You know what alternative means? It means different. It means we do things differently from them. So why are you sitting here telling people or questioning people or critiquing people about the way that such and such is doing things when it was already in your mission statement to do a different thing? You're doing something different and it appeals to a different audience and it appeals to, and those people appreciate what you do. I appreciate what you do. And I can sit up here and I can appreciate the fact that Jinder Mahal is going to be in a world title match with Seth Rollins. And I can also appreciate Hook, who is 28-1, challenging Samoa Joe next week for the world title. You can enjoy both. Why are you asking for outrage? And why does it have to be a conversation about a double standard? Like, if we're being honest about what's happening, like Jinder Mahal is riding off the momentum of him being in the ring with The Rock. That's why it makes sense for him to be in a world title match with Seth Rollins. Stupid. If you had a star, you would know what that's like.
He lost him.
Like, exactly. Like you lost your star. You lost your star. But like, think about it. Like, Jinder Mahal is in a very, very different situation than Hook. So why are you comparing and contrast? It's two totally different situations. Jinder Mahal's in a certain situation. Hook is in a certain situation. Do I think that Jinder Mahal is the best wrestler on the planet? No. Am I going to watch that match? I'm probably not. Simultaneously, it's like, bro, you've already committed to doing something differently and just pride yourself on that and stand on that. But you trying to persuade the public to not like WWE for whatever reason, for what you feel like is a double standard, I think it's giving, like Mo said, it's giving sore loser. And it's just really, really weird and really, really petty and just really, really little boy of you to do that. And it's like, bro, you sitting up here having to play Chris Jericho's entire theme song just so that you won't hear the crowd yelling NBA. And you talking about stop it while you're behind. But before I even get into any deeper into this, let us know how about you feel about Tony Khan becoming the wrestling version of Kanye West with his damn phone, and leave comments below. We're moving
Not
on.
Kanye. Yeah, next topic.
So speaking of talents, WWE and AEW, our guy Mustafa Ali took his first set of bookings after being released from WWE, and he cut his first promo. And he stated, every upper management that I have ever worked for in this industry has told me to my face that no one will ever cheer for someone named Mustafa Ali. And then that just went into just people chanting for him. And then it's like they started chanting F them. And then he was like, no, better than F them, show them. So I think I wanted to ask this. Number one, do you believe that? And number two, do you believe that Mustafa Ali has the potential to be a breakout star on the independent wrestling circuit?
I don't know. I always liked Mustafa Ali, and I feel like as long as I known him off of WWE, he was very much over instantly, especially with the kids, because like he has like this very interesting entrance with the light up and stuff like that. And people were buying his merch and stuff like that. He's very he wrestles very babyface. Like I want to say when he was being a babyface on screen, he was definitely beloved. I loved him. I think he's a fantastic wrestler. I think he's well spoken. And it's so like I believe him when he says that upper management probably has said that. I could imagine a white male in a suit relaying this information. But it's just so odd when I think about it because while yes, wrestling is like a white male dominated sport, like we watched in previous times wrestlers of like ethnic races, minorities, like get over. And the first one that comes to my mind or two is thinking of Eddie Guerrero or Rey Mysterio. You know what I mean? Like, so the idea that like they got over very well. it's a little bit shocking to probably hear from management that they wouldn't invite the idea of other minorities getting over. I know
Mm-hmm.
the obvious reason why. We're not going to say that here, but I think he's fantastic. And I think that he is just like a bright light that will just light up any room, any space that he's in, because I feel like the fans know what he's capable of, but that he's constantly like either getting the short end of the stick or not being featured enough. And one thing I love and appreciate about Mustafa is that he knew he was in some pretty shitty angles, but any opportunity he had, he took that shit and ran with it. And he tried to
Mm-hmm.
make it the best possible fucking thing. Down to how bad Retribution was. He just went for it and he tried to make it the best possible thing. And I was even kind of interested, in spite of like the production of it being really lame and corny. I was still interested when he at least spoke.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a very powerful voice. I feel like for some reason a lot of people just look up to him. I don't like look like him, but I love the idea that he's proud of who he is, and he's so
Mm-hmm.
committed to making like this impact. Maybe like as we said in like previous shows before, um, that Paul Heyman quote about how he's been placed here to maybe not be the first brown person to take off in the E, but he's going to be the reason why maybe others want to step up to the plate and eventually they're going to have that opportunity. I feel like he's going to do it and it's just not going to be in the E. And I feel like he could work his way up into being on another televised big show, whether it is
Mm-hmm.
AEW or he goes over to Japan or something. Like there's so much you could do with this man because he'll take any gimmick you give to him and make it work. A, B, he's a phenomenal wrestler. Um, did he ever have a title in the E? I can't remember. I don't think so, right? Unless it
I
was a
don't think
smaller
so.
title.
I don't think so.
I haven't seen him with that
I
yet.
immediately thought about the cruiserweight title, but I don't think he
Same.
won that. I don't even
Yeah.
think he won that.
But he's like championship material. Like we watched him lead a faction. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he lost a few title matches, but he carries like the energy of a champion and a main
Of a champion.
eventer. Yes, and he's so humble. I love listening to his whole speech because he was thanking the person that he wrestled with, and he was saying, I wrestled with AJ Styles, I wrestled with Rey Mysterio, I wrestled with this person, this person, this person, and you're just as great as them. I love his energy because I also feel it in my heart as a fan watching him through the screen that he wants to
Mm-hmm.
uplift everyone around him. It's not just about him and a mission just for him personally. He wants to see everyone eat. So I think it's a beautiful thing. I think he's a beautiful person. I think wherever he goes, he'll be happy and he'll make an impact. And he's definitely, this is not going to be the last we're going to see of him. He's definitely going to be back on screen. I feel like he would work really well in New Japan the more I think about it. Like, where he could be doing the same thing that Dolph Ziggler's doing, and it would
Yeah.
just fit like a glove. But I want to hear your take, Jordan.
I can see Mustafa Ali doing well in New Japan. I also see him doing well in TNA. But I'm gonna start by saying that I'm rooting for him. Like I feel like he is under an unfortunate plight because I feel like the Islamophobia in America got turned up to 100 after 9/11. And because of that, it affected so many artists, entertainers, athletes, even outside of the wrestling space. And Ali being a brown person, it naturally affected him. And I feel like that definitely was a barrier, one of the reasons why he didn't get over in the E. But I do feel like you said, he's just a genuine, humble person. He wants to uplift everyone around him. I feel like if Ali is Ali, I think that he's going to be doing some amazing things this year between stuff like on the indies, but I could definitely see him popping up in TNA. I could definitely see him making a couple appearances in AEW, but I really want him to just be him and to just for him to be given the chances that he deserves. Because I feel like he can be an X Division champion in TNA. I feel like he can be an international champion in AEW or a continental champion in AEW. I feel like there's so many opportunities and so many spaces for him, but I really feel like there just needs to be the mindset of just letting him cook. because I feel like when he's left to his own devices, he does really, really well. So I think that's really my only thing with him, and I'm just rooting for him, and I want him to do incredibly well. But I want to know how everybody else is feeling about Mustafa Ali. Do you think he's going to break out on the independent scene? But we are going to move on, because one of the things that we had kind of discussed, right? I was able to go to see the Iron Claw,
I
which
want to
is
see it Friday. Don't
it's
spoil it for
just,
me.
I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's fantastic. Um, Fantastic movie. I would love to do a review on this next episode or whatever, but it's a fantastic
Ooh, I'm
movie,
down.
and it begged the question of what other wrestlers should have a wrestling biopic. One of the most popular names was Eddie Guerrero. But on the flip side of that, there was a discussion of Chris Benoit uh, receiving a biopic. And the reactions were really, really mixed, because if you know anything about Chris Benoit, you know that his passing was very unfortunate, and it affected, and in the midst of his passing, he affected negatively the livelihood and the well-being of other people. So I wanted to know, would it be appropriate for Chris Benoit to receive his own biopic?
Okay. So, me as a fan, I would like to see it, but is it appropriate necessarily? That's subjective. But I understand both points, and I want to throw that out there. I understand that entails addressing the double murder suicide, and it's not so much the suicide part that people have an issue with, but obviously the loss of Nancy and his first child.
Yeah.
So, um, that being said, I understand people don't want to see that murder reenacted. I could completely understand that. I know that a lot of people forever will hate him, and I completely understand, because a man's supposed to be a protector and a provider, and he did not do any protection. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I get it. However, Dark Side of the Ring was so fascinating to a lot of people. It got us through the pandemic. I know it got me through the pandemic. And there's just like an array of like dark things that goes behind the scenes with wrestling that we all found really interesting and very enticing. And Chris Benoit did get his own episode, and that was controversial then. Um, I'm a fan of Chris Benoit and his work. I don't support what he did in any shape, form, or fashion, but I liked how in Dark Side of the Ring they unpacked like a little bit about himself, his upbringing, what went on in the E, where was his mental state, like in progression, and how it deteriorated through use of steroids, CTE, depression from the loss of Eddie. They try to dabble as much as they could in 45 minutes. And what I was getting overall from the gist of how they describe Chris Benoit, what every person that had their own take was that they were saying he was a very good person from all their perspectives, and that this really was out of character and happened out of the blue. So my fascination in wanting a biopic is not so much that I want to see the double murder suicide. I'm not. I could politely turn my head away from that. But I'm interested in like them unpacking more about him and the type of person he was, and maybe how deep his relationship was with Eddie. I know they touched upon it in Dark Side of the Ring. I'm more so interested in the psychology of who Benoit was and getting a full understanding instead of hearing all these pieces I've been hearing for years and years and years, as I as a fan try to connect the dots as to how did it really come down to this. And I want to see how they capture that much about Chris Benoit. Um, because I feel like forever we just ingrained that he's just a murderer, which he is
He is, yeah.
a murderer. Okay, where no one's denying that. However, I feel like there's a way you can maneuver this where it could be a little bit more educational.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if people don't want to see it, I get it. If there's outrage, I get it. If it rubs people the wrong way, I get it, because the first thing my brain thinks of is what's the name of that famous serial killer that got a Netflix special? Or was it Netflix? I don't know.
Jeffrey
Jeffrey Dahmer?
Dahmer.
Yeah,
Yes.
that pissed off a lot of people because I don't even think the family got consent of the victims that were killed. They didn't get any consent, and they just saw it, and it blew out because people love watching murders. I mean, I'm guilty of watching forensic interrogations and murder scenes and crimes and stuff like that. I have a weird fascination with forensics. Okay, um, so maybe that's why I'm a little bit more okay with it. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
wondering, well, if people looked at it from maybe that light, we watch random murder cases on TV all the time. Is it really that bad if we got a biopic? Because we seem to digest that stuff just fine,
Mm-hmm.
and binge watch those things continuously. I know that as wrestling fans, we get very passionate and connected with these wrestlers. We for some reason we just like to live vicariously through them, and we feel like we're invited into their homes. Um, so maybe that's why the outrage is what it is. But I'm just like thinking about it. If we didn't know who Chris Benoit was, and he was just another like case that appeared on TV, because he did get several specials when the murder happened. He got like little 30-minute explanations as to how a WWE wrestler did such and such. So I'm like, if we kind of digested it that way and just looked at it from that lens, would we have the same outrage, or is this because we just know too much
Mm.
and we take it personally because we're fans? There's so many ways to like look at it, and it's such a touchy subject. I'm gonna say overall, I'm okay with it, but I want to hear your perspective, Jordan, entirely on this.
So before I get to like my concrete answer of if I'm okay with it, I think context in this sense is important. I feel like the reason why this is such a sticky subject is that traditionally in American cinema, biopics or biofilms serve as celebrations for people who they are doing the movie about.
Mm.
Notorious B.I.G. had a biopic. Whitney Houston, Selena, all of these people are massively adored. And so
Mm.
when they tell these stories or when they are given these biopics, usually these movies serve as celebrations for the people that the movie is being done about. Chris Benoit is such a peculiar figure that because of how good he was in the ring, even if you were to approach this from a standpoint of we're telling a story and we're not celebrating the human, it's hard because of how great he was in the ring. It's almost like you can't tell the Chris Benoit story without mentioning how great of a wrestler that he was. And if you mention how great of a wrestler he was, it's going to feel as if he was celebrated. And that, I think, in lies the issue, is that do you want to even celebrate the work of someone who did those heinous things, did a double murder suicide, right? I feel like I actually do feel like the Chris Benoit story needs to be told. I feel like there needs to be a biopic on this because within the Chris Benoit story, there are many lessons. One of those lessons is that you can be a very, very talented human being and mentally, spiritually, emotionally just not be there, right? You it also tells the story of, mental health, a mental health journey, a man grieving his best friend, um, passing away, um, the wear and tear of pro wrestling on your body, specifically like when you're on the like when you like this man's finishing move. His finishing move was a diving headbutt. This man got on top of a rope and said, "You know what? I'm gonna land on your head
He did it
with
off
my
of
head."
steel cages, off of ladders,
All of the
like,
ladders, and he was doing. And this is, mind you, he was doing TV and live shows, so he's doing this move 300 times a year.
and chair shots to the head were still a thing.
So this is another thing to tell the story, kind of talk about CTE. I feel like there are so many layers to the Chris Benoit story, and I feel like the story needs to be told because it needs to be shown how a talented person can go through so many unfortunate things that can affect others. And if you tell that story, I feel like there is going to be an instance or a world where men are going to see themselves in Chris Benoit and then try to take another path, right? Because I feel like there's so many things in that story that a lot of men can relate to, right? Like as we get older, we're going to lose important people in our life. And if, Chris Benoit didn't, I don't want to say he grieved incorrectly, but he grieved in a way that was destructive. And so sometimes seeing the destruction in someone's grief can at least encourage you to be like, well, I can't control how I feel in the face of loss, but I can control how I respond and how I act. And if these are the things that are going to set off these triggers that are going to allow me to go down this path, I'm not going to do it anymore. If a Chris Benoit biopic leads to that type of logic and thinking, I think it's more than worth it because you're teaching people, like you said, you're educating people on what not to do. And I feel like that's just as big of a part of life than knowing what to do, is knowing what not to do and knowing what road not to take and knowing what triggers and things to stay away from. But that's like my personal thing on it. Also, but I do think that if there is another wrestling biopic that's done within the next 10 years, it needs to be on Eddie Guerrero. Point blank period. Like I think that Chris should have one, but I feel like Eddie needs one first and A24 needs
You
to
think
do
Vince
it. But
McMahon's gonna get one?
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my God.
That's gonna be a lot to unpack. That's gonna be a long
That's gonna be so much.
That's gonna be 3 parts.
That's a Passion of the Christ length biopic, is Vince McMahon's biopic. But let us know in the comments below. Do you believe that Chris Benoit should have a biopic? But we're gonna move on to the next subject. Because Eric Bischoff had a lot to say about AEW in light of the potential debut of one Mercedes Moné. And I feel like we were talking about this earlier and something got brought out of context and then people were attacking Eric Bischoff. But he made a valid point. So, he was doing a lot of criticism on his podcast. He said essentially that there is no one really that can make the needle move for AEW. And this is the full quote. But this is a perfect example of what I meant. We've seen so many big names come into AEW. Pick one. Let's put CM Punk off to the side. Pick any other one, and the net impact on the growth of the business other than selling t-shirts has been zip, nada. The television audience continues to deteriorate while WWE continues to grow. You look at their ticket sales outside of anomalies or outliers, I should say, like the UK, and they're not doing nearly as well as they were in the past there. Have you looked at their Dynamite shows? Just, check out WrestleTix on social media and you can see that you can see their ticket sales, and they're playing in 10,000 to 15,000 seat venues, but they're scaling them down to 4,000. And a week before the event, they haven't sold out yet, so it doesn't matter. He's not lying. I think that a lot of people kind of took it out of context and said that he was saying that Mercedes won't move the needle.
I do.
But this is less of a Mercedes thing and more of an AEW thing. So would you agree that there is no needle moving in AEW? Mercedes included?
I think Mercedes can be a needle mover. That's the only part of his quote that I disagree with, because I feel like she is just as impactful as CM Punk. Any room she goes to, like, I feel like her
That's
fans.
a hot take.
Nah, I just feel like all her, like her fan base is so like insane about her. It's like she's like the Beyonce of wrestling. And we watched this happen like when she quit WWE. Everyone was stalking her every little move. Every time she like posted something on Instagram or wrote something on Twitter, or she was posted somewhere, or she was on someone else's story, because she actually was not even using Instagram at some point. And other people kept stalking everyone else she talks to. And every time they saw like a little glimpse of Sasha, they would screenshot it and blowing it up. Like her fans are obsessed with her. Anywhere she goes, they flock, they support, they buy. Like she is a draw. So all that being said, if we're just focused on just Mercedes, I do feel like that's like the only way maybe Tony Khan could currently like go grab a star that's going to move the needle, because she is shock value. She's the full package. She's that girl. And if you still don't believe it by now, you're just a hater. Like you're just a hater. But on the subject matter of what Eric Bischoff was saying, and I want to apologize because I went on Twitter. I saw actually a fraction of the quote. I just saw the part where he just said that Mercedes wouldn't basically move the needle either because she ain't no CM Punk. That's where I blacked on Eric Bischoff. So I want to apologize, Eric Bischoff, because I actually do agree with what you got to say. And I don't apologize to many people, okay? But I agree with what you have to say because the best example is Edge. I'm gonna use Edge. I'm a huge Edge fan. Okay, you're talking to the girl that has a replica coat that I'm staring at in my closet from his 2020 Royal Rumble return. Okay, I am obsessed with that man. Okay, in spite of him blocking me. Okay, but he went over. He went over to AEW and the ratings still didn't jump. Did he blow up on social media because of the shock value that he betrayed WWE essentially? Yeah, but after that, it kind of just stabilized. Stabilized. Unlike when CM Punk showed up, it blew up. The idea that you could take a Hall of Famer like Edge and he shows up and it still didn't do anything, especially, again, he freshly came out of WWE. He had a few WrestleMania moments on the way out. He's done a lot of work with WWE on the way out. The fact that even you couldn't utilize him to get ratings, it has to be a matter of the booking. And he's not wrong. There's several people that I feel like they came to AEW. We all got excited. And just whatever they were doing with them, it just kind of just slowly died. And then I noticed that it was just like a repeatedly like that. They did it with Ruby Soho. They did it with Tony Storm in the beginning. I felt that way about Miro. I'm gonna call him Cesaro still because Cesaro. There's like several people where they'll have
Andrade.
Andrade. Oh my God, we forget about Andrade. They just do this thing where they collect people just to say they got them, but then they don't know how to like long term book anyone, and so they start to feel like everybody else. They feel as regular as the people who haven't been on TV until they got signed to AEW, which is really sad and pathetic because these people seen different countries, different crowds, travel the whole world, been on TV. They know what it's like to see real money and they feel regular. They feel like indie folks. So I don't disagree with anything that Eric Bischoff has to say in that regard. And that's the issue with Tony Khan. That's another reason why I'm pissed at him for the whole tweeting thing. Because just like you have so much to fix. Like you need to learn how to write better stories or long-term stories and not just sign people just because you want to acquire everyone that Vince got rid of. So that's how I feel about it. But how do you feel about it, Jordan?
So I think with Eric Bischoff made some points. I feel like the difference, though, between Edge and Mercedes Moné is that Mercedes had that period where she was in New Japan briefly, but it kind of showed the difference that she can potentially make. There were times when Mercedes was announced for a show and thousands of tickets were sold as a result. And when you can kind of have that impact on a business, I think that it shows that you can be a draw. So I think that Mercedes Moné would have been the one who could have drawed had AEW signed her. And obviously we don't know what the word is on that We're still trying to figure it out. You know, is she going to be in AEW? Is she going to be in WWE? But I do believe that Mercedes would have had that impact. Um, I think that the issue with AEW is kind of like what you said. I don't think that they have a long term story issue because they were able to successfully do it with Adam Cole and MJF. They were able to do it with the Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page story. They were able to do some great stuff with Punk and MJF when they were there. So they have multiple instances in which they tell great stories, and they've had great matches as well. But I feel like once you put too many cooks in the kitchen and once you have too many workers, it's going to be harder and harder and harder to manage. To me, it's not about the caliber of talent that you have, it's about how you use what you have already. And so when you just include more talent, it's now you just have more to manage. And sometimes that may not be the best route to take. Sometimes it's just about, okay, like who do we have now and how can we utilize them to the best of their strengths? And I feel like when it comes to AEW and who's best utilized when their strengths are being utilized are people like the originals, right? All the people are the people like the elite. Um, and also I just feel like AEW is kind of also in this transition period where the things that they proclaimed about AEW are starting to slowly be reversed. You know what I mean? When, you tell people that they can be whomever they want to be and that they have creative control and you're known, but, you're still considered the booker. Like it's starting to feel like you're starting to WWEify your program. And I feel like you are kind of hitting the reverse Uno button on on your company in a way. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing because I feel like there needs to be some form of hierarchy there. But I just also feel like the transition period or these people have creative control, but I'm booking. It's like a weird middle ground, if that makes sense. And I feel like when you're in a weird middle ground and you're trying to be in between two extremes, it's very, very hard to establish identity. Um, but I ultimately, I'm saying all that to say that I think that Eric Bischoff is correct. I do believe that there's really nothing that can move the needle for AEW, but the exception to that is Mercedes Moné because we've seen what she was able to do briefly outside of WWE. Now, if it could be sustained for a long time, I think that's a to be determined type of conversation, but I personally think that she can. But I want to know how y'all feel. If Mercedes Moné were to be in AEW, would she be a difference maker? And is Eric Bischoff correct? Is there no such thing as a needle mover for AEW? Let us know in the comments below. I meant to put this on the rundown. I thought it was. Were you able to look at the TNA wrestling belts, the new ones that they unveiled?
Let's take a look at it.
I was going to say, I really want to, I may, listen, this is on the spot, y'all, but TNA Wrestling has unveiled some of their newest belts ahead of their Las Vegas show, Hard to Kill, which is, I believe, on January 13th. So that's this weekend. But they have shown the new designs for the X Division title, the world title.
Ooh, these are
Jesus.
fire.
I was about to say, I'm about to put in the world title, the X Division title, the tag team title, the digital media title. I don't think that they have unveiled the belt yet for the knockout title, but so far they've
Ah.
unveiled 4 new belts to kind of show that they are going back to the original TNA branding. And I wanted to get your take on all of these belts. How do you feel about the new TNA belts as they kind of rebrand to go back to their original brand identity?
They're all sexy. And normally I hate seeing colored on belts because it makes them look kiddish and like toys, but
Mm-hmm.
it's very well done. It gives me very much world heavyweight feels for some of the belt. Actually, all of them kind of remind me of the world heavyweight belt, just like in a more modern way, but I actually love it. I'm a big fan of belts that have like details and engravement going on in it. Um, they look huge. They look like they're heavy. They got
Mm-hmm.
some weight on it, which I love in a belt. Um, I actually I actually am a little obsessed with it. It looks great. I'm sorry, I'm just swiping through, guys. Like this is
I'm
my
weak.
first time actually looking at it. No, but it looks legit. I just like a belt that looks legit.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about them?
I think they're perfect. I think when I was looking at these belts, I was like, these are updated versions of their original belts, which I think is like the perfect approach to it. Their original belts, TNA's original belts, already look good, and I feel like they just needed a modern twist on them. And they have it now with their world title, with the X Division title, tag team titles, digital media titles. Everything just looks refreshed. Everything just looks new. The red on gold just looks really, really great. Like, I think it's the fact that it's not like a lot of red. It's like a healthy amount of red. You know what I mean? It's like the right amount of red, and like everything else is gold and kind of complements it perfectly. But I just think that it's great. I think that the belts look really, really good. I'm really, really excited to see the Knockouts belt and the Knockouts tag team belt. Um, but I think this is great. And like you said, like you like belts that have weight on them. I think every belt needs to look important. And I don't like it when I look at a set of championships and I can see the hierarchy because certain championships look more prestigious than others. I should feel like all the championships are prestigious. And I feel like this does that really, really well. But I want to know how everybody else feels. How do you feel about the new TNA wrestling belts uh, ahead of their show Hard to Kill on January 13th live in Vegas? But that concludes our show for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We have a lot of cool stuff happening this year. We have some interviews on the way. We have a 316 space coming up for the Royal Rumble. It's going to be great. Once again, let us know how y'all feel about these jerseys, and we will see what we can do for y'all. But once again, I'm Jordan Nahisi. That's Mo. Thank y'all so much, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye. It was fun.